Hey, all you rebels out there, welcome back to another episode of Cracked Ice Gaming. It's Chicky D here, and you're wondering, Cracked Ice Gaming? They haven't uploaded in a month. What happened to them? Well, we basically just been really busy, lots of different life things, and of course, we've been busy playing the game. As you can see, Chicky D took down a Store Showdown. How did I win these four awesome Mace Windu cards that you see here? They're on eBay if you want to place a bid or let us know in the comments. I'm trying to pay for college and some money for the Mace Windus would be great. Anyways, how did I do it? How did I manage to win a Store Showdown with Sabine? It's impossible. They said it was impossible. How did you manage to do it with Sabine? Um, well, she's Sabine, right? So she's good. But why did I play Sabine? I'm Chicky D. I'm the Han guy. So why did I play her? Well, in my opinion, she's kind of good. She's kind of broken, believe it or not. This is nothing breaking news to you. I'm going to try to make this video somewhat enlightening and tell you some things that maybe you don't know about Sabine, even though you probably know most about it. But the main reason I played Sabine is because I don't like going to time playing Han at least one game in every tournament I've played in, like bigger tournament, I guess, like Store Showdown or Showcase event. A game has either gone to time or I felt the pressure of time and had to start slamming cards for fear of the double loss and whatnot. And I was just kind of fed up with that, so I'm like, let me play Sabine, right? And I also wanted to prove a point that Sabine is also really good. As you can see, looking at the deck list, let's take a look at this. And then after we look at the deck list real quick, because there's nothing much to talk about with the deck list, I'm just going to go through the matchups at the event as well as some final thoughts and comments on the best of three format. So looking at the deck list, you're probably thinking, one red 3, 2 for a cause, only 2 K2SO? What the heck, Chicky D? Are you off your rocker? No. Chicky D just didn't have 2 red 3s, was missing a 4 cause in K2, and Chicky D said, we can still play a really good Sabine deck. We don't need all that stuff. I would like it, but Sabine is just that good that you don't really need all the cards for Sabine. You need a lot of them. You need A-Wing, I'll tell you that for sure. You probably need 3 A-Wings in the deck. But you don't need all the cards. And here's the beauty of this. Since I was missing, I would say 5 key cards. The red 3s, the K2, the 4 cause, and I would probably run 2 H-Sacks if I'm being honest. So 4 or 5 cards, that opened up extra slots. And as you can see in my main deck is Disabling Fangfighter, which I think is a great card anyway, especially going into the set 2 meta. And then you look at my sideboard, it just opens up extra cards you can throw in for different purposes. One of which was Infiltrator Skill, and we'll get to that later. And so other than that, this list is a pretty stock list. There's a black one in there. I had one. Crank and Chewy swears by the black one. He's a big black one fan, and I threw it in there because why not? I was really trying to go heavy space. That's the one thing that I would say maybe is different from all the other Sabine lists is that I have, is it 17 space units, I believe? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17, I believe. Yeah, I'm not going to count them all really quick, even though I just did count them all. 17 space units, whereas most might have 12, just with the A-Wings, X-Wings, the wing leaders, and then the red 3s. I was really trying to go space because that is how you win a lot of games with Sabine. So moving on to the matchups, I don't need to tell you why Battlefield Marine is good. I don't need to tell you why you need to play Battalion. You already know that. So what happened? First round, let's backtrack. I should have mentioned this at the start of the video. It's even in my little notes here. Is at a store called Gaming Company in Walled Lake, Michigan. Great store, awesome store owners. We actually drove down there. Crank and Chewy, myself, as well as Captain Shikaka. This was just Crank and Chewy and I that went because Captain Shikaka was back across the world. We drove down there a couple weeks ago when he was here back in the States because that was the original date for the event on Mother's Day. There's a video that hopefully will get uploaded by Crank and Chewy, kind of detailing that whole experience. It was kind of an interesting day. But so it's just Crank and Chewy and I at this event, and it was best of ones in Swiss. They took a vote prior to the start of the tournament and said, hey, should we do best of ones with the cut to the top 8, which was going to be best of 3s in the top 8, or should we just do best of 3s throughout Swiss and then sort of let the computer and standings decide the top cut? So we did best of ones, which I was fine with. We got a chance to switch out our deck lists and whatnot before the best of ones, so that was nice. They gave us ample time. So first round, Boba Fett yellow. Go space. That was the game plan. I'm surprised I actually won this matchup because he got off a really good start. He won the initiative and went Cartel Spacer, and I went A-Wing, and so that wasn't great because he got good value there. And then he had a really cool play where he waylaid my General Dodonna while I had a Fighters for Freedom out there with 4 damage on it, so waylays the Dodonna, the fighters die. But I was able to pull that one out. Second round, I got crushed by the Luke. Oh my goodness, this was not good. I was kind of scared. I was like, oh, if I run into these Luke players, I'm gonna get uh, a bad day handed to me. I don't even know what to call it. I got crushed. I hadn't prepared much against Luke, so I wasn't really sure. Sabine was kind of like a last minute call. I was even building the deck list in the car ride up there. Obviously, I'm familiar with the game and familiar with Sabine, but I haven't gotten too many reps in with her because I've been more of the Han guy, right? I'm the Han guy. But so I got crushed by the Luke. I mean, just shield the battlefield, not the battlefield marine, echo based defender, just throw a shield on that, smack me with Kanan, heal a bunch. I got crushed. I was kind of scared, but then round 3 against a mirror match, Sabine ECL, I won the initiative, and I think I just had like a better hand too as well. It's like I went Sabine unit, he went Sabine unit, I crushed his Sabine unit, and mine lived. And then like I go red 3, and then he goes red 3 sort of later on in the game, and then my red 3 just crushed his red 3. So I won the initiative. That was kind of it. I believe the Luke player in round 2 and then the Sabine player in round 3 were both brothers, if I recall correctly. And nice guys. Everyone was there, was super chill and super nice. It was a overall fun event. Obviously, because I won, that did make it a lot of fun. But other than that, everyone was really cool. And then moving on to Palpatine Command Center in round 4, I went space. I went space in this game, as well as the first round against the Boba Fett. And going space against this deck, I mean, what does mono green villain have for space? It's got like Viper if you're running that, and it's got, I don't even know, patrolling V-Wing. Really, you're relying on drawing your commands, and if you run Strike 2 and OBs to sort of go from your ground into space just to do that damage, but he didn't draw any of that, so I just played my units and crushed him, to be completely candid. But then this was a heartbreaking loss. I was 3-1 going into the 5th round of Swiss, the final round of Swiss. And I made one misplay. I think I made, in retrospective, this was my only misplay of the day, but I don't think it would have mattered a whole lot after doing the math back. Well, I ended up losing this. I had a play lined up where I was going to U-Wing reinforcement, and if I drew a Fleet Lieutenant, I was going to, like, Fleet Lieutenant of Fighters for Freedom. Top 10, no Fleet Lieutenant, so I was cooked. But the 11th card, the card after the 10, was a Fleet Lieutenant. So I ended up losing that technically by 1 card, but that's how it goes. But I'm trying to recall if I just missed the announcement before or what happened, but they did a play-in game for all the 3 and 2s and some of the 4 1s, and that's the FFG rule. If you look on the rules, what you're supposed to do is if you're cutting to, let's say, for example, top 8, you look at the 8th place score, and let's say they're 3 and 2, and if anyone below them, 9 through whatever, is a 3 and 2 as well, you take all the 3 and 2s and then up to even some of the 4 and 1s. We'll have to play in like a play-in game to get into the top 8. So if I think it was down to players 14, all the way to 14th place after Swiss. I want to say it was 14. Anyways, there was a play-in game. Let's just say there was a play-in game, and that's how FFG rules it. And so, going to the play-in game, I beat a Darth Vader green, which has been kind of a tough matchup just for me personally, not even the decks I play, just like me as a person. It seems like Vader often just comes out and slags me. But this, I was able to get it done. I was able to win in the play-in game and secure a top 8 spot, secure the 8th place Mace Windu at the very least. So that was a good feeling. He made a pretty big misplay though. I think he might have won if he didn't make a misplay. Turn 1, I played Benthic 2 tubes, and okay, I gotta preface this. This is gonna sound like I'm cheating. The deck list that I posted, or that you saw at the beginning of the video, was the top 8 list. Before we were able to switch out the decks, and I put Benthic in the main deck because I thought he was great in the mirror match, speed match. So Benthic was in the main deck list for the best of 1s, not the best of 3s. So I played Benthic in a Spec Force Soldier, and he played a Probe droid, and instead of swinging into Benthic on the start of turn 2, he swung into base instead of smacking the Benthic, so I was able to get like 6 free damage to base. And he was like, "Yeah, I probably should have killed the Benthic." I'm like, "You probably should have." So able to win that top 8. A Palpatine Blue on the Dagobah Swamp. I'm just gonna say it right now. Spec Force Soldier is kind of a good card. Late in the game, I believe it was game 2. After I won the first game, he drops the Devastator, and I'm like, "Oh man, I am really screwed here." Except I wasn't, because like I had a bunch of space units, and then I played Spec Force Soldier and got rid of the Devastator Sentinel, and that was it. That was how that game went. How we got to turn 10, I have no idea. Bunch of ramp, bunch of stuff, but he got there. Um, Unless I'm thinking of a different game. Unless I'm thinking of it's all a blur. Anyways, moving on to top 4. At this point, I was like looking at, I'm Sabine, right? So I'm finishing my game before everyone else. So I got time to like look around, see what's going on, and I'm seeing the same Luke guy lost into Swiss, and another Luke, and maybe even a third Luke. I can't remember, but there's a bunch of Lukes in the top 8. I'm like, oh no, this isn't good. I got crushed by Luke in Swiss. I don't want to go against Luke in top 8 or top 4. Anyways, I played Luke in top 4. Look at that. And as you can see, I played it in the final as well. And so with the Luke, um, yeah, it's I don't know. I don't honestly. Here's how I did it. So I was kind of scared, obviously, because I lost to the guy in Swiss, and he was a pretty good player. But I'm like, let's just go space and hope he doesn't draw Bright Hope. That was my main strategy. And that worked for game 1. I don't think he got a Bright Hope game 1. But then game 2, he got 3 entrenched. He like entrenched an R2 and then entrenched a Bright Hope. And I disabling Fang Fighter one of them, but then he got a third entrenched, and I was pretty screwed there. So that didn't go great. But then the third game, I can't even remember how I won the third game. I don't remember how I won the third game, but I won the third game because I made the final. Chicky D. Oh, well, Crank and Chewy was telling me don't choke this. Crank and Chewy had a terrible outing. I'm just gonna put that there. Crank and Chewy went 2 and 3 in Swiss and was just not doing great, to be honest. Um, Anyways, in the final, the 2 cards that really saved the day for me were, and we're gonna get to the matchup MVPs after this, to the MVPs of the tournament, not matchup MVPs. Infiltrator skill and disabling Fang Fighter. So game 1, how I basically won that game was going into resource 5. I thought I was just really gonna lose right there, because I'm like, man, he's gonna drop 5 resources worth of stuff, and I had like 4 3-drops in my hand or whatever, so I could only play 1 card. But he goes traitorous on a wing leader Alliance X-Wing, and I'm like, well, this is great, because now I can Fang Fighter, steal that back, and he essentially does nothing this turn, and I still get, of course, attack with that X-Wing for base. Um, and so that was great. I believe that was the first game. That's how I won the first game. And then the second game, how I won that was Infiltrator skill. He threw out a Bright Hope. Again, that's sort of the Luke card. That's how Luke sort of beats Sabine, is throwing out a Bright Hope and stalling the space. Obviously, if they go ground, then you like shield your Echo Base Defender and caning them to death and whatnot and heal a bunch. But I was able to drop an Infiltrator skill on, I don't even know. It was something, but Infiltrator skill. And shout out to Scott from the Golden Dice podcast, because all the way back in pre-release, he won the final of the pre-release to win 10 packs with an Infiltrator skill play. I may insert that clip from their podcast recapping it.
The final round, it was Vader Green on Vader Green, and we both like basically like, he would drop the super laser tech, and then I would drop my super laser. We ramped up with each other, and so we both have our Vaders out. And he swings in with his, kills something else on my board, hits base, and then I have 1 resource left, and I attach a what's it called?
Infiltrator skill.
Infiltrator skill. Yeah, I was going to say like Saboteur skill, but Infiltrator skill. And then that all of a sudden the math swings in. I'm like, and I swing in my Vader, kill your Vader. He's like, that really made a big difference. I'm like, yeah, +1/+1.
That was who I lost to. That reminded me. Chick Donovan from Cracked Dice Gaming.
Anyways, hope you enjoyed that clip. But Scott, he when I was thinking about the last couple cards to put in the sideboard, I was looking at like Infiltrator skill, and I was like, man, I remember that just crushing me in the pre-release. So I threw Infiltrator skill in and called it a day and said, you know what? If we face Sentinels, if we face like Luke Sentinels or whatever, and other Sentinel deck with a Chewbacca deck, we'll be set because we'll throw those in games 2 and 3. And it ended up working great. It was the MVP because he threw out the Bright Hope. I'm like, bam, Infiltrator skill, and then we can just bypass the Bright Hope. So that's how I did it. They say it can't be done. They say you can't win a Store Showdown running Sabine, but I was able to do it. Quick editor's note from Chicky D here. It must be mentioned that I won the second game of the final round, the championship round, off a top deck. I'm not going to lie. He had the board all locked up. He was ready to swing and smack me with base. The only thing that would have won me the game at that point was either a For a Cause and a K2SO with my ECL into his Kanan for 2 overwhelm. And then, of course, the 3 to base. I believe he had 4 damage left on base. So I think I would have needed to hit all 4 with the For a Cause. And as you know, I'm running things like Fang Fighter, Infiltrator skill, or the ECL K2 as well. And so going into the round, I had the initiative. First card off the deck was a Spec Force Soldier. Not what I'm looking for. But then I got the K2 and was able to ECL into his Kanan. 2 overwhelmed to base because I ended up defeating the Kanan. And then the 3 from the death of K2 ended up winning me the game. If Kanan Jarrus didn't do 4 damage back to kill the K2, I probably would have lost the game because he was about to kill me with some big units there, and then we would have went to game 3. But, sometimes a little bit of luck is all you need to win a tournament. And just some final thoughts. Matchup MVPs. That's it. Anyways, I basically went over it. Fang Fighter's great. I would main deck 3. I'm just going to say it right now. If you defeat an experience token, that's great. Defeating a shield is great as well. And then there's a lot of green. Green is easily the strongest color in the game right now. At least it's the most represented color, which would say it's the strongest color. I played green in every matchup except my first round. And if you're running green, Traitorous is at least going to cross your mind to throw in your deck or your sideboard. And if they're running Traitorous, you really can't run Wing Leader. At least you can't Wing Leader a unit that's not your Sabine leader. But if you have the Dream Start, let me give you the Dream Start. We're going off script. Dream Start is A-Wing into Wing Leader and disabling Fang Fighter in case they Traitorous. That's the Dream Start right there. That's all you got to do. A-Wing, Wing Leader, and disabling Fang Fighter. You get that, you're looking pretty good. Unless you're running against yellow and they got Waylay, then you might be in trouble. But Fang Fighter, Infiltrator skill, and then Spec Force Soldier, like I said earlier, he drops a Devastator, and I drop a Spec Force Soldier to bypass the Sentinel. And that's how you win the game. Just getting rid of Sentinel, because Sentinel a lot of time is the win condition, or maybe not the win condition, but how they sort of beat Sabine. And if you can bypass the Sentinel, you'll be gold. I know that's kind of obvious. I was gonna try to tell you things you didn't know about Sabine, but there we go. I just told you something you already knew. Anyways, to the final thoughts. Let's get to it. Best of 1 versus best of 3. There's sort of differing views out there on if the best of 3 format is good for the game or if they should be best of 1s. And I'm gonna speak for Crink and Chewy and Captain Chicago, where we all have sort of collectively landed is that best of 1s, 25 minutes. Maybe 30 minutes, whatever you want to do, but probably 25 minutes is probably, in my opinion, better for the game. Because if you go to an event and it's, 5-6 rounds of best of 3 Swiss and then a top cut, you're looking at, 6, 7, 8 hours, especially if you go all the way like I was able to do. And I would not want to be there for 8 hours or whatever. And best of 1s, you get to play against more people. If you do sort of extra rounds of Swiss because of the time, I guess technically if you keep the same amount, then you don't get to play against more people. But it just feels kind of faster. It feels more. It reminds me more of Destiny, and maybe that's why I like the best one. But I would have you sideboard before the game. I would have you see your opponent in your base and then sideboard as well. And if you think that's unfair to the aggro decks, well, you can do a couple balancing things. You can just give aggro a couple extra cards that make it sort of balanced if you think the sideboarding really destroys aggro, or just make a smaller sideboard, make it a 5 or 6 card sideboard. I don't know, but you can't just say, well, it is bad for aggro because then aggro is going to get crushed. Well, then you just give aggro some more power and then you balance it out. But the whole 55 minutes that ends up turning into like an hour and 10 minutes when you include like extra time for the control decks, the hidden mirror and whatever, and then, pairings and whatnot. It's just a long time if I'm going to be completely honest. And then it also discourages people from playing aggro because then they're sitting around for like 30 or 40 minutes doing nothing. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the best of 1 versus best of 3. If there's one thing I want to know your guys' opinion on, I don't need you to tell me why Sabine is good in the comments or why she's terrible, because we all know why Sabine's great. I'm no hero for winning a tournament with Sabine. I'm not acting like I am. But I want to know what you guys think about the best of 1 versus best of 3. That's sort of the conversation right now that's most intriguing to me. And then when you're playing Sabine or aggro or like Leia or whatever, you get this fatigue advantage. I remember going into the final round, I'd been standing around for like an hour waiting for the Luke that obviously I faced in the final, versus Vader. Was it Vader Green? I believe it was Vader Green. I was also in the top 4 playing against him. So I was waiting for like an hour. And like when we sat down to play the last game, the dude was just exhausted. And he's like, "Oh man, do we have to do this?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm ready. I've been resting for an hour. I'm ready to go. It's like in the NFL playoffs. If you get the first round bye as the 1 seed, you're ready to go. You're not exhausted. You're ready to play." So that's another thing. Another reason to play aggro is you're not going to go to time. You get the fatigue advantage. And those are just 2 great reasons to play aggro. It doesn't have to be Sabine. She's just kind of the aggro queen right now. In set 2, I'm guessing there's going to be some other aggro decks that also compete with Sabine. But then final thought is you can play decks without all the cards. I made top 8 at a 1K without Millennium Falcons and Han Solo. Took a Store Showdown with Sabine. Not with Sabine without playing 4Ks and whatnot and all the other cards. I say all that to say, you can play decks without all the cards. You don't have to spend $1 million on the game. You don't have to spend the $500 deck. You don't have to get all that. If you're an average to above average player like me, or if you're a great player like other people out there, then you can do it too. And, thank you all for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe, and comment and do all that good stuff. As always, keep your blaster in your holster, and don't be a meta slave, I guess. I guess I'm kind of one now. I don't know. Let me know in the comments.